right, well, if you're here, then you probably already have enough experience to know that some chords on the guitar, super simple, easy, convenient, and some of them are a serious pain in the rear. So what we're gonna do today is take a look at some of the chords that are most commonly found together. Now, if you've already taken some lessons on some other instruments, you might have already gotten some theory in there, and you are already familiar with the concept of keys, and maybe even like diatonic triads or diatonic chords. If not, that's all right. We'll get into that in some of the later classes. But the general concept is that chords tend to cluster together. So, for example, if we are going to be in the key of G, probably the most common key for guitarists to write and play in, then you're most likely to see lots of Gs, lots of Cs, lots of Ds, lots of E minors. That's the reason that we play in the key of G, is because obviously those are the chords that are probably the easiest to play with and the easiest to figure. Those are the first chords you usually learn in most cases. There might also be an A minor in there, but the G, the C, and the D, and the E minor tend to cluster together, and we call that the key of G. Now, you could be in another key, for example, the key of D, which would use also that D, but it kind of has a different role in the key of D. So there's kind of a different context for the D when we're in the key of D. However, we would see a D and a G and an A and probably a B minor somewhere in there. And so that's what this chart is all about here. In the key of D, we're likely to see Ds and Gs and As and B minors. We're not likely to see an E chord in the key of D, but if we are in the key of E, we would see a lot of E's. So let's see here. Some practical ways to apply this. If you take a look at a song and you've got a G in it and you've also got a C in it, you don't need a whole lot of other chords to eliminate pretty much every key except for the key of G. Maybe you'd be in the key of D. But the reason that's helpful is that you can already start to predict the other chords are going to be showing up in the song. So if I run into a song and the first two chords are a G and then a C, I pretty much know we're in the key of G, because the way that chord families work, Gs and Cs pretty much only show up in the key of G and maybe in the key of C. But if it's a guitarist that's playing it and they're going to play a G and then a C is the first two chords, I'm pretty confident that we're going to be in the key of G, which, if I'm familiar with my chord families, means that I'm also going to predict that somewhere along the line there's going to be a D and there's going to be an E minor in there. And I can pretty much rule out that we're going to run into a B in that song, or that we're going to run into an A in that song, or that we're going to run into an E major in that song. So now I've eliminated almost all the chords except for these four most important chords in the key of G: the G, the C, the D, and the E minor. We'll talk more about the roles that each of those chords play in the future. But for right now, just knowing that a G and a C is an indicator that I'm probably likely to see Ds and E minors other places in the song, make it so that I can jump in and play along with that band almost immediately, because I already know what chords they're going to play just based on the first couple chords that they're introducing in the song. So once we get familiar with these chord families, and the boring part would be memorize the chord families here, just the ones that are listed. In the key of G, we would have Gs. That's the answer for all of these. In the key of A, we'd have As. In the key of E, we'd have Es. In the key of D, we'd have Ds. But then these other ones that we're also likely to see, in the key of G, we're likely to also see C, D, and E minor. So you could almost like play this like a flashcard game, just trying to memorize it as if it's a history test or something else boring. I don't know. The key of G has G, C, D, and E minor. The key of D has D, G, A, and B minor. And memorizing those and then playing them all in a row. So that would be the first assignment for this lesson. Would be key of G, run through all the chords that you have in the key of G, and then in the key of D, run through all them you have in the key of D. And then key of E, we'd have E's and A's and B's. You might play B like that. And then C sharp minor, which should be played like that right there. And then again, that B might be played like that or like that. Some people would play it like that. That's kind of a dangerous way, but we'll get into more chord variations in the next lesson. And then the key of A would have A's and D's and E's, E major, and F sharp minor. Now, I'm hoping that you already know how to play all these chords, and this is just an opportunity for us to cluster them together so that you're not just guessing wildly what the chords are, and you're able to like kind of eliminate some of the options that are out there. Even if you're just like reading a chord sheet off of like Ultimate Guitar or something like that, just knowing that those chords are going to show up together will help a whole lot in predicting the chord and making it a lot, making there be a lot less guesswork about what is going to show up in the song. And then just getting really familiar with switching between all of those. So not only in the key of G do we want to go G, C, D, and E minor, but we also want to switch those up. G, E minor, C, D. G, D, C, E minor, C, D, C, D, E minor, G. Later on, we're going to use this exercise to do something called transposing, which is where we're changing the key around from, the key of G to the key of E or anything else that we want. The good news is with the chords C, A, G, E, and D, and a couple little minors in there, we can cover most of these because there's a lot of overlap between these keys. For example, in the key of G, we have a G. However, in the key of D, we also have a G. In the key of C, you would also have a G. So that G chord actually shows up like in 3 pretty common keys. So it's in a lot of different families, but each family has just about 4 chords in it. And we'll change some of those rules a little bit later on. But I think the assignment for this week, for this lesson, is to try to memorize all of your chord families. So you can just run through the D, the E, the G, and the A would probably be the most important ones. You might also want to consider throwing in a C there. So sadly, the lesson preview has come to an end, and it's time to say goodbye to everyone watching the free streams. Of course, paying subscribers at learnpianolive.com can continue watching this lesson and several hundred others like it in the archives. So come on over and check us out. And if you like what you saw, at least like and subscribe, and then tell your friends to head on over to learnpianolive.com to start enjoying this journey with us.